Hey, we're here on the podcast with an extremely smart guy. His name is Mark L. Fox, the founder and CEO of Resona Health. Mark is an entrepreneur, scientist, engineer, author. He's a crop formation researcher, former Space Shuttle Chief Engineer, hot air balloonist, and he built his own airplane just to show off even more, which is okay. He's the inventor of Vibe, which is the world's only pocket pulsed electromagnetic field, PEMF device. It puts out frequencies that are extremely low energy and safe, and it has been used to deal with pain, PTSD, anxiety, sleep, back pain, ADD, ADHD, 35 plus other ailments with no drugs or doctor visits from the comfort of your own home. So Mark will tell us all about it, how he came up with it, why he came up with it, the secrets to his success, and whatever else we fit in this fun conversation we're about to have. So Mark, glad to be speaking with you.
Oh, this is fantastic. We'll have fun. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. And so give me the elevator pitch for this device. What is it? How does it work? What does it treat?
So first of all, it doesn't treat anything. We got to be careful with that. We can't use that word at all.
Okay.
Not even use the word therapy anymore. But if you think about magnetic, it's a transfer of energy. So nothing in the world happens without a transfer of energies. Think about cooking food, breathing oxygen, falling down, breaking your arm. Everything's an energy transfer. What this is transfer through magnetic PEMF fields, as you said. But if you think about it at a higher level, it could be delivered with electrical current, magnetic fields, light, sound, or vibration. All of those can transfer energy to your body. I just selected PEMF because it's the least cumbersome. You don't have the wires on your body, and allows you to have, quote, therapy on the go because you put it in your pocket or wear a lanyard, while you're watching TV, hiking, or doing whatever. So it's super portable. You can take it anywhere you want. If you went out, man, on the street with a microphone and just asked, hey, have you ever heard of PEMF? Probably 1 out of 20, maybe 2 out of 20 people will have heard of it. More people are hearing about it. And the ones that have heard about it will know of a mat, like a beamer mat or something at the chiropractor. It's a big full body mat that you lay on. And that's how most people have been introduced to it. So magnetic therapy has been around for 3,500 years, right? That's early documentation. And for medicinal purposes, PEMF, or pulse electromagnetic fields, have only been around about 100 years or so, that are at least 100 times more effective. So that's why you hear a lot about the pulse part. It's not weird voodoo because it's the Earth's heartbeat. So the Earth is putting out pulse electromagnetic field all the time. 7.83 hertz, 14.1, and 20.3, I think. So it's called the Schumann frequencies. It's actually the echoing from lightning and thunder going off the stratosphere. Well, the Earth ends like a bell. So you're engulfed in it. It's not, it was harmful, we'd all be gone. So with plants and animals. So it's just been fine-tuned over the last 35 years of, what ailments do you have? A lot of trial and error, right? Is figuring out, for example, PTSD is the most complex protocol we have because it's going through 76 different frequency pairs. Some are a lot simpler than that. Some of them are more complex, like PTSD. But it's transferring energy to your body. In the simplest terms, your cells in your body have electrical charge like a battery. And when that voltage gets low, you get sick. So it recharges your cells' batteries. Also a thing called ATP. So it's adenosine triphosphate. It's the number one thing that your cells use in their food chain for energy, for food. So it increases ATP up to 500%. So it's giving your body, it's recharging the cells, and it's giving your cells food so your body can do what it does best, heal itself. So that's it from the simplest terms. And if you get into doctors get into arguments about mechanisms of action, you get in details. Well, we don't know how aspirin works, and it's been around for 3,000 years. We don't know how any drug works. We have theories, but no proof. So if you get deep diving into that rabbit hole, you can't explain it, like a lot of things you can't, but we just know it works because we see the results.
Wonderful. Well, it seems like a nuanced conversation to have, right? Because you don't want to just completely throw out the idea. And then there's other weird stuff, and it's difficult to not lump it into the category, right? Like in the 80s when they would have the devices that would zap your muscles, there was silly stuff. So it's unfortunate that this can sometimes be associated with that, and people just maybe won't even consider any other alternative. And like you said, we have to be very careful about how we say like people should use it. But I'm curious about this idea of people like covering all the bases, right? Like you don't say to ignore like traditional mainstream medicine, but this is a good kind of thing to try in addition to treating your sleep or back pain if you're looking for alternatives or if other solutions just like aren't working very well.
But you just hit the key point at the end there. So most people come to this technology because they're long-term chronic pain physically, mentally, or both, and nothing else is working for them. So it's the drug side effects of the drugs aren't working or that it's not working at all. And that's how people normally seek this out. It's a little bit weird. It's only in America that this happened. Okay. Is Rockefeller and Carnegie are responsible for this back in 1934. Okay. Is Rockefeller figured out he owned 90% of the oil in the country, right? He owned Standard Oil. He figured out I can make drugs out of oil. So him and Carnegie took over the medical industry and said, if you're not doing drugs or surgery, you lose all the funding to the universities and we're going to pull your medical license, which they were in charge of the equivalent of the American Medical Association. So all that research, and it's really dumb if you think about it, because your body is mechanical, electrical, and chemical. Why are you going to ignore the electrical part, right? You're mechanical, you're chemical, and electrical. We're the only country that threw out all the electrical stuff. It's now coming back, but that's what happened to it. A lot of that research got scrapped, machines got scrapped, a lot of history is gone because you weren't allowed to practice it because of Rockefeller and Carnegie, those guys that own the world then. So it's not near as voodoo in other countries outside America because they've been doing it. They never stopped research where we did. So it's only kind of spun up really in the last like 1990s and that time. I mean, there's been spots where it picked up again, but it's been the last 30 years maybe that people are really starting to look at it. NASA's been doing it since the 1970s because for bone density, you can't have long-term space duration because without some assistance for bone density, and we'll never get to Mars without it because what I just said, you lose bone density in space. So a doctor told me the other day, he goes, Mark, if PEMF is not on trial here, if anyone questions that, they uninformed, ignorant, or they don't care, right? They're just because there's enough. If you go to PubMed, anyone can do this and type in PEMF, you're going to find 6,000 articles. I think there's something like 35,000 articles have been published on this technology. So it's not any of the weird, crazy stuff that you were just mentioning. There's a lot of science behind it.
Well, great. So there's the science, the documentation, and that's as Americans, it's easy to forget that, right? That there are other countries, and sometimes people go to Europe or somewhere else to go and get some treatment that's just not offered here, or some doctor over there, like they're pioneering it over there and they're working on it over there. And you're so right that American history is just so bizarre as far as like these different industries, right? You look at how the alcohol or the tobacco or the marijuana, like this was shut down and this was let loose, and it's just. But now we're here in this information age where we can be educated and where we can change our minds. And that NASA connection is very interesting because you mentioned that you were the Space Shuttle Chief Engineer. So now we're getting into like marketing storytelling, right? Did this idea or this concept start with you at NASA, or like what's the connection there?
No, actually not at all. The connection there is that couldn't come up the stairs one day.
Okay.
She just started crying, and I'm like, so me and my wife flipped a coin to see who wasn't going to work that day, and found out I won. So I took her to the vet, and she had severe arthritis in her spine. And a veterinarian, real forward-thinking veterinarian, who's a friend of mine, goes, "Hey, there's this lady that has this magic machine, and she can reverse arthritis." So this is 7 years ago. So I looked into that. She got so sick so fast, we didn't get to treat her. But I learned about that technology, and I'm a skeptic, right? As I'm an engineer, it's like, you can't heal something with frequencies and voodoo, right? So I'm still skeptical, but I've been looking at it for 27 years, and there's too much data there that says it isn't real. Nothing's 100%, right? But is a very high success rate with it. So I'm like, what really was the spark finally about 7 years ago, maybe now, is I got very angry. that I saw what it was doing for PTSD, saw the success rate, and it was being held hostage in a clinical environment where you had to go through the doctor and all the training, the expensive machines and everything to get the treatment. And I'm like, there's got to be a way to make an affordable, portable device. So I naively said, I'll just take a coil and a circuit board. And then, they caught on fire and I had a pile of coils over in the corner of this room, 8 feet high. It wasn't as easy as I was hoping. Okay. It's in the end, it's actually a music player. It's an MP3 player. All the files are actually songs, but they're just not playing through a speaker. They're playing through a coil. So I actually built them all on a music synthesizer. So all the frequencies are super, 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 super low, between 1 and 1,000 hertz. So there's 0 basically on an exponential scale, right? But yeah, so I took a music synthesizer and put the frequencies in that I learned from all these other people and created a song. So it really is a music player. It intentionally, people go, it kind of looks like an old iPod. Yeah, I did that on purpose. So it would have familiarity. And also the other thing is, like, very few people know this, but your listeners will now. So familiarity and marketing and stuff, I wanted to look familiar, so it wasn't strange. And if you're old like me, those colors are actually the same colors on a Star Trek tricorder. The thing that phones used to use to go woo, 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 right? And fix people. Yeah. The same colors. So I wanted, and the bars bouncing around. So I tried to make similarity in the marketing so it wouldn't seem so foreign to somebody.
That's cool. You figured out a lot. And using the like the music player, that's genius, right? Because even when you were mentioning at the beginning of our talk about, like, there was like the 72 patterns or pairs, I was thinking, oh, that's like a chord or like a harmony. So why reinvent from scratch when the music, the patterns and the rhythms and the frequencies, it already exists, right? So you just adapt what works, and it also works out. That's a really cool marketing lesson right there, of go with what already is there or similar, and kind of make your better innovation. Even when they show like the driverless cars of the future, they still kind of look like cars. They're kind of a upscaled futuristic version, but they don't say like, hey, we're gonna make this object and it doesn't even look like a car. Like, some cars do look weird, like a Cybertruck, but it's still like, you can tell looking at it, it's a car. So you have this, it's the music player, but instead it puts out these PEMF pulses. And so stories are always fun on a podcast, right? It's one thing to say, well, here's the origin or here's some teaching, but people actually putting it to use, right? That's the magic. That's the secret sauce. So, I mean, there's all these different uses for it, right? PTSD, pain, anxiety. Is there like a top use within the pie chart, or is it kind of equally spaced? Like, who gets the most use out of it?
Yeah. Like I said, there's 59 protocols on there, and 5 of them are brainwave protocols that can be repurposed for 70 other things. There's like 130 different things. But PTSD and trauma is probably the biggest, just because it's one I've studied the most and have the most hard clinical data, P factors and all the medical terms and stuff that say it's real. Number 2 is probably anxiety, because it's the largest ailment in human beings in every country combined. Is anxiety. So that's a huge one. And then, of course, pain, back pain, neck pain. Sleep is a big issue. So it helps a lot with sleep, with REM, sleeping longer, falling asleep faster. The one that we're running clinical trials on right now, a couple different things. One is blood sugar, because I can't say the D word. Okay. But bringing your blood sugar down, is we have lots and lots of data that shows it's working. So I got to get it in a clinical environment with a third party doing it so that we can prove it, which we'll have that in a couple months. But that's super exciting. Bring your A1C and your blood sugar down by putting something in your pocket, not taking a drug. So that's super exciting. Vagus nerve, for several years, I didn't know what it was. Didn't want to mess with it because it was outside. I'm not a doctor. Okay, I'm a rocket scientist. But toning the vagus nerve has positive things with it that I've been looking into it harder and harder. And I think I knew. So one of my competitors, and they're one of the good competitors, one of those rising tide lifts all ships. We talk to each other and share information. So we were both kicking around. What do you think would tone the vagus nerve? And I told him what I thought it was. And he goes, you're probably right. And they did the largest the largest vagus nerve study with PMF. in the world last year, and it's the frequencies we thought it was. So we're doing that as well. We can now measure some, you hire the right doctor when I go, can you measure heart rate variability? And he says, which one? Because there's a bunch of them. And you got to know which the right one is to go measure. So he's my doctor. He's a naturopath and a PhD in neuroscience that is on my team that we're looking at those type of things. So there's 59 different ones, and general inflammation, honestly, is probably the most used one because most ailments are inflammation is the underlying cause for the problem. So that's one that's used a lot on the device.
So many uses. And so is there one like story or person in particular that put this to use? Like, is there anyone that stands out as far as like the before and after transformation, nothing else worked, they found you, use this device?
I got a couple hundred of them. So I'll just pick a few off the top of my head. This is how the guy's voice was too. He's in his 80s. He goes, Mark, my wife hasn't been able to complete a sentence for 2 years. She ran your dementia protocol, and now she can speak to me and her friends again. It's like, dude, that's as excited as you are that you don't not want your wife to talk? I mean, but I have lots and lots of people with blood sugar will call me up and go, what in the world? How did this drop my blood sugar in 30 minutes? Or they go into the doctor and the doctor goes, hey, your A1C looks great. Your blood sugar's down. You finally did what I've been telling you to for 5 years. You started exercising, change your diet. And they go, nope, I started using this. The doctor snatches out of the hand and the doctor calls me and goes, what is this? And I explain it to them and they end up being wholesalers normally, right? Last story is if this doesn't raise the hair on your arms, you are not human. Okay. 17-year-old girl said, Mark, I'll never have a date in my life because I have Tourette's. I'm a monster. I get bullied all the time. Always pick on me at school. It's awful. I ran the brain balancing protocol. My Tourette's disappeared and I have a date on Saturday night. That was a year and a half ago and she's engaged to the guy now. So lots of stories like that. Back to inflammation, I'll have people call me up and they'll go, or they'll ask, do you have anything for RSMM? I'm like, I don't know what that is, right? And I got to go Google it, and you can't unsee the picture, so you need a cold drink before you do that. But it's usually going to be inflammation's the underlying cause, or if it's toxicity, then run liver. If it's allergy related, run the allergy protocol. If it's making you itch or you have hives or something that look like allergic reaction. So there's a lot of them like that you can just kind of make the bridge. Last summer, I had 3 doctors, ironically, in the same week, contact me and go, this thing's kicking butt for MS. I go, multiple sclerosis? They go, yeah. I go, I don't have a protocol for that. I said, are you using the fibromyalgia? On my brain, I just did a connection with nerves. And they all 3 went, yep, that's exactly what we're using. So doctors are looking at it now. And there's not one exactly sometimes. Usually you can find a match, but not all the time. And when you don't, you use a little bit of thinking on your own and you go, okay, try that. Because it can't hurt you if your body doesn't need that frequency. It just doesn't use it.
Well, this is cool, especially just the versatility of it, right? Applying it to all these different uses. And what is the usage like? Is it different depending on what purpose it's for? Like, is it as needed? Is it like, nighttime, throughout the day, daily? What do people usually do as far as the regularity, the routine?
What we tell people to start with is 3 to 4 times a week for 30 days. If you don't see a result by then, it's not going to help you, or you misdiagnosed yourself and you're running the wrong protocol. Okay. It's interesting because a dog and a cat will tell you immediately if you're running the right one or wrong one. If you're running the right one, they'll lay on it. If you run the wrong one, they run away from it. Right. So there's that. Now, some people it'll take them a whole 30 days. Some people, particularly allergy and pain, some people will feel a difference on the first session. Not everybody. So there's a warning. If you're in severe chronic long-term pain, the first time you use it, don't be driving a car or operating a catapult or weapons. Okay. Because it may make you feel drunk or stoned because it's releasing when the pain goes away, your body's releasing endorphins. It's the high because it's like happy. It's having a party in there. So, but everyone's different. Some people it doesn't work for at all, but it's an extremely high success rate. Actually, with PTSD, it's actually, I don't believe it, but I have all the data. It's a 98% success rate. There's nothing else out there like that. And it's not going to work for everyone. So when people ask, hey, do you have 100,000 double-blind studies? No. But even if you did, it's never 100%. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Because even if they're 99% successful, which they're not, I mean, a drug is successful if it helps 50, 60% of the people on average, right? So there's a whole bunch of people it still doesn't help. So that's why we have a money back guarantee. I don't want anyone in the world to ever have one. If it didn't help them, send it back if it doesn't work. But talk to me first, because I'm going to find out. Case in point, my own personal experience, I've never had sciatica in my life. And every symptom you can imagine is what I had. So I go, it's sciatica. So I ran sciatica. It didn't help. It didn't help at all. And I'm like, then it dawned on me. I live here in Cocoa Beach. I walk on the beach almost every day. There's a family out in the ocean and their soccer ball was going to float away. So I tried to kick it back up to their towels and it rolled back to my foot and I kicked it again. It rolled back to my feet and I'm like, am I committed to this stupid ball? So I kicked as hard as I could and went flying up past their towels. Then it dawned on me when I was walking home, I forgot my foot was like half numb. And like, so I pulled tendons or muscles or something. So I switched the protocols to inflammation and muscles and tendons. And in a couple of days it went away. Another angle though is if people are in long-term chronic pain, and I don't have them in a clinical environment, right? If they run it 5 times a day, 8 times a day, I tell them, don't do that. You don't need to. They're not going to go back. They don't care. They're going to, because they don't want to go test themselves to see how do I get back to the bad spot of where I was and good and see where the breaking point is. They just want to feel good. I have a very good friend who's an ex-race car driver. He's been on 4 concussions. He's been on fire twice, right? He's bought 15 of them. He looks like a terrorist, man. He has them strapped all over. He's running arthritis and stuff. I'm like, Mark, his name is Mark too. You don't need to do it that much. But then people go, I don't care. Like I tell women, I tell everyone, put it in your pocket, wear it with a lanyard around your neck. I told women not to put it in their bra. They don't care. They put it in their bra anyway. Apparently they stuff everything in it. They keep dropping them in the toilet. I don't know what the women do in the bathroom, but it's like every time they go, mine got wet. I'm like, yeah, you dropped it in the toilet, fell out of your bra. Right. Anyway, so that's a long answer to your question, but everyone's different. It depends. It does help most people. It won't help everybody. I can tell you how it won't work for sure is if you don't use it. That's the number of people like, I tried it once and it's like, okay, you tried it once, and then they put it on the shelf or they send it back. And the other one is it doesn't work as well if you're not hydrated. So we tell you to drink 4 glasses of water in the 4 hours before a session because the belief is the energy is resonating with the water in your body, like a pebble in a pond. That's what allows it to give you full body coverage, even though it's one of the ways you get full body coverage is the water resonance. The other way is your electrical conductivity of your skin and magnetite your cells. But we believe that because if you're not hydrated, it doesn't work as well. And then I can have people all the time. It's like one guy go, how much water do you drink a day? He goes, I'm hydrated, Mark. I'm like, how much water do you drink a day? He goes, I don't drink water. Okay. So why do you think this is a true answer. I'm not making this up, Robert. Is like, why do you think you're hydrated? He goes, because I had a protein drink last week.
Oh boy.
So especially elderly people, right? Is like they're chronically dehydrated. So everyone's a little bit different. Obviously, some people are super energy sensitive to it, so they have to run it at a very small amount, a lower power level. But for most people, not every ailment, but PTSD is 98%. Probably the lowest success rate we have, unfortunately, is probably prostate or tinnitus, ringing in the ears, is maybe a 60-65% success rate. And everything else, to my knowledge, falls pretty much in that range.
Well, amazing, many uses, and I love the anecdotes, right? Because anecdotes are so important because it's very for sure necessary to talk about the data and the step-by-step process, but then the little stories are fun, right? And people can kind of imagine themselves in this situation, and I'm sure it's motivating for you as well, saying, "Oh, I'm helping this person. Well, these doctors are trying it out on this. It's working in that situation." It can be motivating, especially when you're trying to get the bugs out of the system and when you're trying to make things work or trying to improve, which can be frustrating, right? You set a pile of clothes on fire sometimes just trying to make this thing work. And so I can tell that you're focused and dedicated and you enjoy what you're doing. In these last few minutes of our conversation, I want to make sure, we talked about so much, but still, I want to make sure that if there's a question that I should be asking you, and it's just driving you crazy. I just don't know how to ask that question. What could that be? What's the missing hidden question in our conversation?
I might answer it this way. So I have so many Facebook haters, it's unimaginable, right? Is liar, scam artist. I was like, can you explain to me the business model of scam when I have a money back guarantee? I mean, I don't pay myself any salary or any compensation. How is this a scam? So I wrote an article called Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire. Okay. And I said, here's the top 100 scams of all time: DNA sequencing, stem cells, CRISPR, antibiotics, x-rays. So I list 100 technologies that were absolutely positively impossible until they weren't. Right? MRIs, right. If you spend 10 minutes looking at how an MRI works, an MRI is the most magical machine ever built by a human, in my opinion. I'm going to tell you real fast how it works, okay? You take somebody, so the protons in your body have a north and south pole like the Earth, and they're all random. You put somebody in an MRI machine, you hit them with 50,000 Gauss. This is 9. 50,000 Gauss. It's a huge magnetic field. It makes all of those protons line up like a laser. Then your body starts emitting its own energy. Then you literally take AM and FM radio, 103.7 FM for the kidney. I'm making that number up, but it's in that range, AM and FM. Blood's 102.3, 93.4 FM for this. And you hit them with the radio. Then you turn the machine and the radio waves off, everything. And your protons all snap back to randomness, and your body releases a bunch of energy, and it's captured on a Fourier transform to make an image. That's how you're doing an MRI to get a picture of your heart. That is the most magical thing I can possibly think of. And there's 1 million MRIs done a year in the United States, and nobody's questioning that that picture's fake, right? So
right.
Keep an open mind. It's been around for a while. It's not accepted mainstream because FDA and drug companies don't want it, right? And so you've never seen a PEMF commercial on the 6 o'clock news. You've never seen anything but a drug commercial, right?
Right.
So that's why people haven't heard about it, because they don't have the trillions of dollars to make that much noise. But I don't know if that answered your question or not, but it's like, I guess I'm saying keep an open mind. If you go in there with, it won't work, it won't work, it won't work, it won't work, mind over matter, yeah, it probably won't. If you convince yourself before you start that it's not going to work, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it won't. In a lot of cases, it won't, because you talk yourself out of it, right? But there's a comedian in the 1970s. His name was Rich Hall, and he had a thing called sniglets, words that aren't in the dictionary, but they should be. Okay. And one of them was boson. Bozo and ozone combined. Bozo and ozone. So it's an invisible gas that surrounds people from letting new ideas get in. So the message is, if you got boson, get rid of it and try it, right? And again, most people will come to this technology because they've gone down that path. The doctors, conventional medicine hasn't helped them. So that's how they end up. It's like, what the hell? I'll try this.
Right. And like you said, whether you're you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. So beware of that boson. Don't just be a hater like all those commenters on Facebook. And tell us about some next steps here. We have Resona.health/MOTD, and you mentioned how people can get this device, try it for X number of days, and then if they don't like it, send it back. But if they do like it, keep it. What is this all about?
So yeah, they retail for $399, which is extremely competitive. I mark them down to $249 for your guests, so they get $150 off if they want to try it. So just go to that webpage that you'll have in your notes, and they can learn more from there too. There'll be a little more button. You can go down that rabbit hole as far as you want to. I wrote a book called "What on Earth Are We Doing to Our Health," which is just kind of talking about high level. To go to PubMed and read as many clinical studies as you want to. Most people aren't going to do that. They don't care. They just like, is it going to work for me? Let me try it. So yeah. So it's 30 days after they get it. So by the way, we ship worldwide for free, every country. So I get asked all the time, is it 30 days after I get it? Yes, because if your customs holds it up, for a week, you got to give people time to try and use it, and we'll work with people, right? Especially if they contact us and I said, you're doing what? Well, you're probably running the wrong protocol. Try this one for another few weeks. So we're pretty open to it.
Very nice. So try it for yourself, see what the results are, see how you like it. That is resona.health/MOTD. And then that book that Mark mentioned is What on Earth Are We Doing to Our Health? So search Mark L. Fox on Amazon and you'll find that. But the most important place to go is resonahealth.com/MOTD. And before I let you go, Mark, I like to
Just
do a little something special. Oh,
one correction, real quick.
what
It's
correction?
Resona.health. There's no .com.
My mistake. I'm so used to saying .com. Thank you
Everyone
for
is.
correcting.
Everyone.
Resona.health/MOTD. And so now it's time to put you on the spot a little bit, Mark. I'd like to ask my guests near the very end here about a fun quote or lesson that has served them in some way in business and in life that they can pass on to us. So what comes to mind as far as fun quote or lesson?
I worked for a general one time and I screwed something up really bad. And he called me in his office and I was like, I'm going to get fired today. And I walk in there and you could tell I was nervous. And it's like, he goes, I'm not going to fire you, you idiot. He goes, if you're right 100% of the time, I don't want you on my team. That means you spent too long thinking about it. Okay. I go, good. He goes, so yeah, don't ever be 100% right. You're going to make mistakes. Okay, great. I felt good. And I started to walk out of his office and he goes, however, if you only write 50% of the time, the hell with you. I'll just flip a quarter. I don't need you. So be somewhere between 50 and 99. It's like, okay, fair enough. Another guy's like wanted to invest me in another company that I had. It's like, I didn't want to take his money as a presentation. It's like, I was so nervous about screwing up. I don't want to take your money and stuff. And he goes, Mark, if we try 10 different things and one of them works, it's a home run. You're allowed to make 9 out of 10 failures. Okay. And one thing I teach all the time, so I teach creative thinking for businesses as well. And one thing I always tell people is, how can you fail in 2 weeks? Quit procrastinating on whatever that idea is. You don't need 8 months and $1 million budget to go do it. What can you do in the next, how can you fail in the next 2 weeks? Meaning, what can you go try in the next 2 weeks to further the promise of that idea? And that gets you off your butt, because the reason most ideas fail is they never get started. You talk yourself out of it before you do anything. So I push that one a lot.
I love it. Where would we be if Thomas Edison didn't say, I wanted to fail 10,000 times, right? If he said, oh, I'll work on the light bulb in a couple months. So that's great advice. So
Right.
You're saying be between 50 and 99% correct, but also get on a path to fail in 2 weeks. That way you'll get your butt in gear. You'll take some action. You'll make some calculated mistakes, but also important, learn from them and then get to the next phase and maybe make some more mistakes and get closer to that element of success. Resona.health/MOTD. Mark L. Fox, founder and CEO of Resona Health, inventor of Vibe, the world's only pocket pulse electromagnetic field PEMF device. It's wonderful talking to you today, Mark.
Great talking to you. Nice meeting you, Robert. This is fun. It was fantastic. Thanks.